God of wonders, beyond our galaxy. You are bigger than the box we built you. Every Bible story warned us not to build an idol. And instead of listening, we made the Bible your idol blueprints to print over and over, forever and ever. So in battle formation, we'd be trained to chant amen. Even if we felt wrong agreeing, we nailed ourselves to it and called it our cross to bear. Forgive me for then and for what comes next, because it's time to rip the Band-Aid off. And I am braced and ready to cry, but we've cried together for years, my whole life. So today, instead of pain, I choose you. And I choose me, because we are one and we are love. And I grow beyond the box and let you free with me. Let's breathe in the fresh air now that we are back in flow with the all that is us and has always been. This episode is a milestone for me. I wrote it from love and joy, and yet I commit to saying it with all the pain of the loss of the whole first half of my life. And that's because this episode is the one where I light the match and burn the boats. I've been playing hide and seek with my home base of these boats. They've been my safety net, my just in case, my maybe I'd change my mind. I love the land I left. It's where my family lives. It's where my heart was born. It's where I learned I love God more than anything. And it's the exact same love that tells me the boats have outlived their use. It is here, in this place, I learned how to see the face of God. It is here, in this place, I learned to hear his voice in everything. It is here where I learned what real love is. I live here now. So, welcome to my boat burning. Let's chat, shall we? I was scared of stepping into this worldview because I felt like if I did, I would be sitting on God's throne. And if there is anything I don't want to do, it is wrong God. I have a lifelong, absolute commitment to the divine at a cellular level. There is no way for me to choose to hurt God. And I just didn't know how to move forward here. I couldn't figure out how to allow it, how to be one with the divine, how to not be stealing his seat. I would never steal from the divine. Never. And then the divine told me, you cannot steal from all is one. Nothing can be lost, only found. And let me tell you, I am a stubborn soul. I don't just go, oh, cute, I like that, I'm in. No, definitely not. And if you can, I am so envious. Good for you. I have spent a long freaking time double checking this stuff, making sure it makes sense. And it does. It really, absolutely does. I wrestled it like Jacob did the angel. I body slammed it a lot. I have the limp to prove it too. Literally, inner work actually shifted my body's fascia and it's relearning its new state. I've had a bit of a limp until my new literal energetic update is solidified. You'll see what I mean in a bit. So let's map out some of the reasons all is one makes logical sense with reality itself And that includes us being one with God. If you hear noises in the background, I am a mom. You'll hear my family. When we go back to the absolute beginning, back before the systems, including writing and biblical scribes, before institutions and the heavy weight of religious expectations, reality didn't start with a set of rules, it started with a sound. In Genesis, creation doesn't happen through manual labor. It happens through acoustic frequency. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. In the Gospel of John, it echoes, "In the beginning was the Word." The original Greek word there is logos. In ancient philosophy, logos isn't a vocabulary word. It is the underlying mathematical blueprint, the ratio, the continuous cosmic frequency that organizes chaotic matter into coherent form. John was in my mind when I wrote my last episode about the song that sings itself into solid form. And that isn't a poetic metaphor. It is literal quantum wave mechanics. Matter is just energy slowed down into a palatable vibration. Reality is a self-generating symphony of standing waves, and humanity was built to operate on that native unified frequency. We had one language, not a vocabulary, but a seamless resonance with the earth, with each other, and with the all. But then a new software program was introduced. In the ancient stories, it's called eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Look at that phrasing through a structural lens. The knowledge of good and evil is the birth of the binary, dualistic, legalistic mind. It is the moment human consciousness drops out of flow with unity consciousness, where everything just is and everything is a self-generating symphony. And human consciousness traps itself entirely in the head, the ego. It is the original cranial entrapment program. And what is the very first thing that happens the moment humans ingest the binary code? They judge their own bodies, the temple of the Holy Spirit. They realize they are naked, they feel shame, and they hide. They sew fig leaves to create a physical insulation layer between themselves and reality. They disassociate from their own hardware. When God walks through the garden, they don't resonate with him anymore. They hide behind trees, terrified, operating on a transactional, defensive script. Institutional religion didn't invent this code with malicious intent. The pastors, the parents, the Sunday school teachers, these are good, loving people doing the best they can with what they were handed. They aren't the problem creators, they are the legacy bearers. They passed down a script because they genuinely believed it was right, good, and holy. And I did too. But the system itself, the overarching institutional framework, inherited a software of dualism and weaponized it into a spell. And to make a spell stick, the system has to lock down the spelling. In a holographic, wave mechanic reality, a spell is just a repetitive acoustic frequency designed to lock the subconscious mind into a specific, rigid pattern. Think about John 14:2. We've all heard it chanted many times. In my Father's house are many mansions. I go to prepare a place for you. For centuries, Western theology has used that verse like a real estate extortion scheme. It took the original Greek word, mone, which literally means a staying place, a station, an abode of fluid, abiding resonance, and translated it into mansion, a rigid brick and mortar separated piece of celestial property. By convincing you that your room is a physical box waiting for you in a future sky suburb, the system successfully convinces you that you don't own it yet. It outsources your inheritance to the afterlife, so you won't claim your sovereignty in the present. It locks you in the attic of your own mind, waiting for a reward after you die. And this wasn't done by accident. If you look at history, the structural receipts are loud and clear. The Council of Nicaea and State Control, 325 CE. The Roman Emperor Constantine standardizes Christianity to unify a fracturing empire. The fluid experiential way is replaced by a rigid imperial state religion controlled by top-down hierarchies. God becomes a distant Roman emperor, and salvation becomes a matter of legal citizenship. The feudalization of heaven, 11th through 13th centuries. Medieval Europe operates under feudalism, where serfs own nothing and work the Lord's land. The Church maps this earthly hierarchy directly onto eternity. Heaven is redesigned as the ultimate feudal estate, where God is the supreme landlord and humans are spiritual serfs waiting for a celestial plot of land they can never truly own. The indulgence extortion scheme, 16th century. The separated skybox model is fully financialized. Pope Leo X weaponizes the fear of the afterlife to fund the construction of St. Peter's Basilica. Through indulgences, the Church literally sells premium upgrades to your heavenly real estate, proclaiming, as soon as the coin in the coffer rings, the soul from purgatory springs. The Puritan worth ethic and the scarcity loop, 17th century. John Calvin and the Puritans introduce the hyper-intellectualized loop of predestination. The only way to cope with the terror of damnation is absolute somatic lockdown. Hyper-intellectualized Bible study, constant policing of the body's natural desires, and endless, grueling labor. The organic ease of the garden is entirely replaced by the survival grinder. You see, the Western tradition didn't translate Monet into mansion because a bunch of ancient scribes misunderstood Greek. It happened because you cannot manage a sovereign human who knows they already contain the whole house. To run an earthly real estate racket, you have to convince the target they are homeless. This cranial entrapment program carries a devastating, literal, real, physical cost to your actual body. When your consciousness is trapped entirely in your head, playing endless defense games to prove you are worthy, your nervous system registers a chronic low-grade threat. This fight-or-flight signature literally dries out the water channels in your liquid crystal fascial matrix. It creates dense physical adhesions, cellular bad sectors in your tissue that physically choke the flow of light and information. When the fascia is locked down, your heart's natural toroidal field loses its smooth, coherent rhythm and fills with a jagged, erratic electromagnetic static. Now, nature is always soothing and animals and babies are always magical, but those experiences of appreciating their beautiful design from the outside is completely different than deeply resonating as one with them. If you've lived with this internal static all your life, as most everyone has due to the historical traditions we've inherited, resonating that deeply is an experience you might have never had. You might not even realize the barrier is there. But if you clear out that historical static, you experience a completely different level of connection, one that operates on a native, zero impedance flow. The moment the static drops, your body's field instantly matches the frequency of the native environment. You don't have to try to connect to unity consciousness. Your biological hardware does it automatically the moment it stops leaking energy. The church calls itself the body, yet forces its members to completely despise the flesh and live entirely disembodied in the fake translation layer. They evicted you from your own hardware, the hardware that, when running at optimum coherence, will resonate with unity's provisional flow. In the standard life we have all known, everything is transactional. You have to force, manipulate, grit your teeth, and struggle to build your mansion. This is the same anxiety that dries out the liquid crystal matrix of your fascia. It is a state of maximum impedance, but nature reveals a completely different law, a law that shatters the old anxious transactional control loops. Look at the ecosystem. Plants showed up on this planet before the creatures that needed to eat them. The soil was prepared before the seed ever dropped. The old 3D programming tells us that life is an endless, terrifying scramble of scarcity, that you have to hunt, build the cage, pre-calculate every move, or you'll starve. But the truth of the field is that the provision is always structurally senior to the need. In wave mechanics, a standing wave requires a perfectly balanced environment to exist, but the field already holds the potential of the form before the form densifies into reality. This is exactly what Jesus meant when he said, "Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They do not toil, neither do they spin." The tomato plant doesn't practice growing. It doesn't lecture itself on how to photosynthesize. It just stands under the open sky, relies on its native programming, and lets the self-organizing intelligence of nature pull the fruit straight out of its stems. Consciousness is not a byproduct of biology. Biology is a byproduct of consciousness. The space around us isn't an empty void you have to fight against. The vacuum is a hyper-dense fluid crystal medium that is actively alive, self-aware, and inherently supportive. Quantum field theory has already proven that the empty space is actually a boiling ocean of infinite energy. And in a holographic universe, that ocean operates as a giant living feedback loop. It literally reads your frequency and coordinates reality to match you. Because within this grand design, the whole is entirely contained within every single part. The Father's house is the infinite, unified, fractal matrix itself. And the many rooms are not physical separated boxes in heaven. They are localized, high definition, vibrational frequencies and stations of consciousness that you have the hardware to access natively right now inside your own fleshly architecture. When you clear the old church static, drop the cranial impedance, and stand in your ungaslightable sovereignty, you become a localized magnetic transducer. Because the universe is self-aware, it reads the pristine, friction-free signature of your coherent heart field and begins to rearrange the 3D scenery around you to match it. You don't have to build the room. You don't have to earn the mansion. You don't have to protect the boat. You are the room, and you are finally allowed to sit down on your unstealable throne. You do that by choosing your authentic self, the person you incarnated to be, the person God uniquely designed you to be, in order for the divine to experience the beautiful life you can co-create together as one. Now, the person you incarnated to be might not look very churchy, but your most authentic self loves itself so deeply that it naturally sees its own face in everything and always acts with the highest good of all as the only choice there is. It sounds messy until you try it, and then it's very, very clear. When you claim your throne, your sovereign node, you aren't robbing the divine. You are finally allowing the literal, divine, electrical energy to flow through your specific liquid crystal matrix with zero impedance. That is the true flow state, and it is a state you can actually live in. You sitting on your throne doesn't deplete the kingdom. It literalizes it. It is thy kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. There isn't one throne that we all have to fight over or feel guilty for looking at. There are 8 billion unique holographic coordinates. He's got the whole world in his hands, and we are his hands and feet. Choose you. You've always been divine. God is love. Love your true design because it's your gift to God. It's what you're here to do. I burned the boats, but I built a bridge. You can come with me.